This podcast is brought to you by Most Valuable Podcasts, leading the league in podcasting entertainment.
What's up, everybody? The Mark Weber here, and I'm joined by Sean Anderson.
Dub them E's.
That's right, dub them E's indeed. No Ricky on the podcast today. He's busy. He's in VidCon. Yeah, we fired him and sent him to VidCon to represent Most Valuable Podcasts with Dave Oster. But today we're going to continue what we just began, and that's talking about every single team in the NFL, all the previews, talking about what they did in the offseason, in free agency, in the draft, what we can expect, what we are nervous about, all those type of things as we go on. And we're going to be talking about the NFC East this time, featuring, of course, Super Bowl champions, Philadelphia Eagles. But we'll get to them later as we talk about the Dallas Cowboys, the Eagles, the Redskins, the Giants. We're going to go from the bottom with the Giants and work our way up, as we always do. But before we do that, let's do a little bit of housekeeping. Of course, if you wouldn't mind, hit that sub button so that way you know when everything's going on, especially when we actually have more of these team previews going up and we hopefully get to your favorite team. Leave comments, hit the thumbs up, all that stuff. Head to mostvaluablepodcast.com where you can see everything that's going on from MVP. Go to patreon.com/mostvaluablepodcast where you can actually get to be on a podcast like the Onside Kick, like the Fast Break. If you like basketball and you like to listen to Sean talk, you can do that. Of course, we also will have T-shirts. Neither one of us are wearing them right now, but trust us, they look great. You can find those on mostvaluablepodcast.com.
Mine's just dirty. You know, I wear it so much, it's so comfy.
It's nice. You got to wash them when you wear them so much, but that's okay because they won't shrink on you. Anyways, I don't really know if they won't shrink or not. Mine has not shrunk, but I don't know.
Mine hasn't either. So, I mean, so far we're 2 for 2.
We're good. 100%. Like I said, NFC East today. We're going to start off. Let's talk about the New York Football Giants, who, as we were going before we actually hit record, you know, there was a few things that the Giants did, and we're like, but really, what matters is health. Can they stay healthy? Because of guys, you know, like when Brandon Marshall got hurt, Odell got hurt, Shepard got hurt, everybody was hurt. All of a sudden, they don't have any of these weapons out there. Eli Manning had a really rough season because of that, but things should hopefully kind of right themselves a little bit. But let's talk about with the Giants, let's just talk about some of the offseason free agency moves that they made. I mean, they get rid of Brandon Marshall. They signed William Gay, Michael Thomas. They no longer have JPP. They get Cody Latimer, which is a move I completely forgot about. Nate Solder, which might be one of the better moves that they made to shore up that offensive line, which certainly needed help. And, of course, getting rid of Rogers Cromartie and signing Jonathan Stewart. There's a lot of new pieces. Do you have any kind of favorites or any things you're worried about that they lost?
My favorite one is that Jonathan Stewart one. I'm not too worried about what they lost because I think this team needed a change. This team needed to get some of the old culture out and bring in some new players. And, you know, obviously they got rid of McAdoo and brought in Pat Shurmur to be their head coach. But the biggest one I like is that Jonathan Stewart move because he's still a decent running back, but now he's going to be the second guy behind, clearly, Saquon Barkley. And you look at that offense, you look at those injuries to the wide receivers. The one thing they didn't have last year was a capable running back to get them consistent yards. Now you have Saquon Barkley, who we think is going to be an absolute stud. You still have Jonathan Stewart, a guy that's consistently getting yards and has been consistently getting yards no matter his age. So he's a guy that's going to be able to run behind this upgraded offensive line, clearly with Nate Solder. They added Jerry John as well. This is a team that now can, come up and possibly have a dual threat offensive attack through the air with one of the best wide receivers in the game in Odell Beckham Jr., still a capable quarterback in Eli Manning, and now that dual-head rushing attack with Saquon Barkley and Jonathan Stewart. And now, hopefully, if everyone's able to stay healthy, you're going to be able to get Pat Shurmur to get his culture in there, get his at least offensive scheme in there, and hopefully this is a Giants team, again, hopefully, because there's a lot of questions still with this Giants team, hopefully get around that 8-win marker, possibly in the playoffs.
It's very obvious, I think, what they're trying to do. I mean, you get a guy like Nate Solder, you draft Will Hernandez in the top of the second round, you have Saquon Barkley, you have Jonathan Stewart, and you get Pat Shurmur. I mean, that's the big thing. It's very obvious with this head coach that look at what the Minnesota Vikings did. They were a dink and dunk kind of team that will kind of lull you to sleep, and then they're going over the top. They are a strong running team. When Darkwa had 750 yards last year, and that's your leading rusher, you're not going to, be upset to have 750 yards. Sure, why not? But that's not good enough. It's not good enough. There's reasons why Ben McAdoo's offense wasn't really working and why they're going a completely different direction. They don't want to be this very pass-heavy team that's relying on, well, if, our 3 wide receivers get hurt, we're screwed. There's nothing we can do in that case. Take some of the pressure, of course, off of Odell, who hopefully is going to be healthy again. But I think that's a really good thing, and it was very obvious to me that that's really what they tried to address. Now, I also kind of think that maybe they should have done a little bit more on the defensive side of the ball, too.
I honestly kind of like their defense. And this is one thing that, we look at this team last year and we completely torched Ricky for picking the Giants last year to win the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Not many people thought that outside of Giants fans and Ricky. But this defense was, pretty decent, and we look at the players on this defense. Alec Ogletree is a monster, and they just got him in that trade from the Rams. Olivier Vernon on that line still good. It's going to be interesting to see how they deal with losing JPP, but even you look at that secondary, Landon Collins is one of the best safeties in the league. Eli Apple was horrible last year, but he had a great rookie year.
And apparently they're going to give him another shot.
And maybe they're not
giving up on him
Ben McAdoo will help. Maybe giving him a second chance will kind of put him in the right direction. But this team still has a lot of pieces that I do like, and even Lorenzo Carter. You look at their first 3 picks, Saquon Barkley, Will Hernandez, and Lorenzo Carter, all of those guys I absolutely love. I think they had a really strong draft. I think this defense definitely has the ability to come out and at least do enough, because clearly they're going to be going up against the Eagles twice a year, but I think they have a good enough defense to probably slow down the Dallas team. I know Zeke is a monster, and that offensive line is absolutely stacked, but we saw last year what the Cowboys were able to do without Ezekiel Elliott, and wasn't too good. We know if you're able to put pressure on Dak Prescott, he's going to have a rough time there. And the Redskins, Alex Smith is a capable quarterback. I know you guys love him, but it's going to be interesting to see how he comes into that Washington Redskins offense. So you look at those.
He's at least going to be efficient.
Yeah, you look at those 6 games in the division. They're going to have a shot in every single one of them. Maybe not the Eagles one in Philly, but at least I think they have a shot at those 5 games, because I think their defense is strong enough. It's not going to be a world beater in top 5 defense, but I think it's going to be solid top 15, top 10 defense. I think they have a lot of playmakers on that side, and I love Landon Collins so much. I think he's a true stud. So I think this New York Giants team, I don't think they're great, but I think I wouldn't be too shocked if they did make the playoffs, because if they're able to stay healthy, we know Eli Manning's able to stay healthy. We know he's at least consistent. He's going to throw touchdowns. He's going to throw picks,
despite his record being ended.
Yeah.
Not by choice.
No. And we know they have an outstanding playmaker on the outside, no doubt Beckham. And you look and talked about the dink and dunk system that they're going to put in. Evan Ingram was one of the best rookie tight ends last year, and he looks like he's going to be able to fit into that system. And if Saquon lives up to the hype, their offense is going to be able to do enough. And again, I think this defense is going to be, not mediocre, but middle of the pack, maybe a little bit higher. And I think they're going to be, again, doing enough to at least win a couple games.
So with that, and I guess part of the preview thing is we're going to talk a lot about what teams did right, and of course we'll get to certain things that we think teams did wrong, but we don't want to be negative the entire time either. And currently everybody is tied for first place, or if you want to say tied for last place, you're a pessimist. But currently everybody's tied for first place right now, so there's a lot of optimism, there's a lot of hope. Is there a chance that they were 3-13 last year, but is there a chance that people are sleeping on the Vikings? I don't even know today. But sleeping on the Giants right now?
I think so. I think just because of how bad last year was, it's fairly easy just to laugh at the Giants, laugh at the decision to start Geno Smith over Eli Manning, and one of the worst moves that luckily isn't the worst quarterback move last year, the worst clearly being the Bills starting Nathan Peterman over Tyrod Taylor, but still.
And going back to him at one point in time.
Back to him. It wasn't 5 picks bad, but it's still ending a marvelous record from Eli Manning, just because you wanted to change things up a bit in the middle of the season when you're doing absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
And we also look at the Eli Apple stuff. That stuff was, comedically bad from the Giants. Dominic Rodgers-Cromartie, again, comedically bad there. You saw the injuries. This is a team that I think people might be sleeping on because, again, I think their defense is solid enough. I think their offense, if all these pieces fit, this could be a team that wins 8 or 10 games. And again, it kind of goes back to how will OBJ play coming back off the injury? Will he play with that whole contract situation? And then also, if he's going to play with that contract situation and he's not getting re-upped,
yeah,
it might be a motivation where OBJ is going to be better than what we've seen
that
before.
That pre-contract year is a wonderful year.
I mean, OBJ not playing for a contract is something. So I wonder if he has that motivation of playing for a contract, what it's going to be like.
And he does say he's going to be attending camp, and he is attending camp. So, that's good. That's fantastic. You want him there. You have a new coach, so there's this kind of new atmosphere. You don't want to leave a bad impression with the new coach and things like that because he's got no loyalty to you. He can get rid of you if he really wanted to. They're not going to, but I'm just saying that's the motivation for Odell to actually show up and play.
Well, that gives it the same to Eli Apple too. It's like they have no loyalty. You're on your last shot. So that's why I think Eli Apple, even though last year was so bad, that could be something that at least turns him around because he's still young.
And some things that are a little bit misleading, I think, with the Giants is when you look at their total team type of stuff. I mean, this team gave up a ton of points last year. Their average a game, 24.3, is really, really bad. They only scored an average of 15 points. I think those two are, for some teams, they're very, very telling of what last season was. And the Giants are one of those teams where it's very, very telling. This offense couldn't do anything worthwhile. And because of that defense was out there all the time. That fact alone of having a competent running game and having healthy wide receivers is going to help out that defense as well, just to let them catch a breath every once in a while. It's not going to be just 3 and outs where you're like, all right, guys, get back out there. It's your turn again. So this is certainly going to help out a lot. The problem for any of these teams, but talking about the bottom half here, is the fact that it's a very tough division. Any of these teams, I mean, the Philadelphia Eagles just won the Super Bowl, but any of these teams can win this division next year.
Yeah, and we saw, even the Cowboys the year before when they had Zeke, what they were able to do. The Redskins are an interesting team. I think I'd probably favor them the least out of the four. We'll get to that in the preview, obviously, of the Redskins. But again, this is a team, like you said, I mean, this is consistently one of the most competitive divisions in the whole NFL. And it's going to be interesting when you see what these teams can do at home, how the Giants are going to be able to do against the Eagles, the Cowboys, and the Redskins all at home. And that's really how you're going to be able to win this division. We consistently see this is one of the divisions like the AFC North that's consistently close, that there's always a changing of the guard near the top, whether it's the Giants, who've won 2 Super Bowls since 2007, like the Eagles last year. The Cowboys are consistently, with Romo, even with Dak, are consistently 8-8, coming even closer to the playoffs. So this is going to be a bloodbath in the AFC or in the NFC East, like we usually expect. So I think with the Giants, it's going to be I think the biggest thing for them is how they're going to adapt to that Pat Shurmur culture. And we've seen before new head coaches in their first year. It's going to be something if they adapt to them, they might skyrocket and they might be able to take off that energy. They might be able to win a couple early games and just gain that confidence, especially having a veteran quarterback, having a dynamic playmaker on the outside like OBJ, having hopefully a dynamic stud of a running back in Saquon Barkley, and again a solid enough defense. This defense last year was pretty much middle of the pack, and that was even giving up 25 points per game. They only had a -3 turnover differential. That's with Eli Manning as your quarterback, one of the most at least consistent quarterbacks it is when throwing picks and interceptions. That's with no wide receiving help at all. And I think they even have a pretty decent pass rush. This is a team that, again, I think that has the right pieces, especially in the division, to at least go 3-3, maybe even 4-2 if they're able to beat the Redskins and the Eagles and Cowboys once. This is a team that if they're able to do that, they might be looking at the playoffs just because, again, you're riding that high of a new coach, that new system, and just a fresh start for everybody. OBJ, fresh new season. He gets to get away from punching, kicking nets or whatever. He gets to play for a new contract. Saquon gets to revitalize this New York Giants team. Eli Manning gets to rebuild his legacy. Eli Apple on the defensive end too, and even Ogletree coming from the Rams to the Giants gets to pretty much prove like, hey, you guys shouldn't have traded me. I'm worth it, and he's going to be a guy that I think is going to be an interesting addition to this defense. So it's pretty much a fresh start for the Giants. And if they do want to take it, even Pat Shurmur too, getting another head coaching job, it's a fresh start for him. It's something that if they're able to take all of that momentum, this is a team that can make some noise.
And the thing that's going to be a challenge for them, as I mentioned, the division, but just their schedule as well. I mean, you'll look at schedules and you see a couple games like, all right, we got some gimme games. There is not a single game on this schedule where I'm like, yup, Giants are winning it. I mean, and it's not because the Giants are a bad team.
Yeah.
It's not because I think they're going 0-16, but they're going to play, you look at the fact that they're playing teams like the Jaguars. You're playing the Texans when they're going to have Deshaun Watson back. The Saints were just a playoff team. They're playing, well, basically I can just say they're playing the NFC South and you'll get it. But, they're playing tough teams where, like, if you're just going to say purely on paper or by records, the easiest team on their schedule is probably the Buccaneers, and that's it. The Colts by that time should have Andrew Luck what is that, week 16?
Yeah, he should be back by then.
We're hoping that he's healthy, but there's not much easy on this schedule. I mean, the best thing they can do is go in week 1 and really surprise the hell out of everybody and just beat the Jaguars. That will make a statement.
Well, and it's at home too, which is going to be to their benefit. I mean, you talked about it. 7 of their first 8 opponents made the playoffs in the past 2 years. I mean, Jacksonville last year, Dallas the year before, Houston the year before, New Orleans, Carolina. Those were both playoff teams last year. Obviously, Super Bowl champs in Philadelphia, Atlanta making it to the Super Bowl the year before and the playoffs last year. I mean, it's going to be a hell of a schedule. And even the teams that are bad on their schedule, like you mentioned, San Francisco went 6-0 to end the season. Tampa Bay is still an interesting young team with Jameis and your boy Mike Evans. We clearly love the Bears here on MVP.
Exactly.
And Indy, like you mentioned it, with Andrew Luck, they might be a playoff team because when he's playing, they typically are a playoff team. And he's going to be hopefully healthy by that point. So, like you said, I mean, and then even then, like Tennessee, former playoff team or playoff team last year. So it's a hell of a schedule that they have to deal with. Not only, like we mentioned, the hellacious NFC East that they have to go through, even the outside of that, it's going to be one hell of a ride.
It can potentially be a difficult season where maybe the Giants are only a 6-10 kind of team next year. But really, this is one of those times, and people get mad at me for saying this sometimes, but they don't want the moral victories. They want wins and losses on paper.
Yeah.
But it might be a season where, honestly, if you're 6-10, but you were close in a lot of these games, that's not a bad thing because next year your team has a full year under their new head coach, understanding the scheme. They're kind of reset some things because there were some voids on the roster that needs to get addressed. But if you get this offensive line working the way it should, you get a competent run game, and people stay healthy, that alone is something to be happy about.
That's where I disagree with you, though, because it's not really I think you can't go with a moral victory for this New York team because we have to look at their window. And you're going to have Saquon for that rookie deal for the next 5 years, but also your dynamic playmaker on the outside, OBJ, might not be on this team next year.
That's true.
The biggest question is your franchise leader in Eli Manning is getting older. We don't know when he's going to retire. We don't know when he's going to have a bad break and possibly get injured. And you took a gamble not going with a Sam Darnold, who was on the board. You went with Saquon Barkley, and you're putting your investment into a 37, 38-year-old quarterback in Eli Manning. So your window is now. Your window is the next 3 years. And if you miss one of those years, it's only 2 more years after that to go and win another Super Bowl with Eli Manning under the helm. So you have to push now. So this is where I disagree with you there. I don't think it could be a moral victory for the New York Giants this year. You have to get 8 wins, 9 wins, 10 wins. You have to put yourself into the position to make the playoffs if you are the Giants, and then hopefully you get the luck of the draw again like you did, the 2 Super Bowls that you won. Even though you were the 6th seed, you were able to run the table and win the Super Bowl. You need to do that again this year because that's the goal for the Giants. And, this is a team that, again, was 3-13 last year, and now their goal is the Super Bowl. But that's just because of what Gettleman put them into. Yeah. Is Eli Manning still a capable quarterback? Yes. But he's 37, 38, and he's might break down. He might just lose it. I mean, let's look at his brother. I know, obviously, 2 different scenarios because Eli's been more of an Iron Man than Peyton is, and Peyton's more skilled than Eli was. But, this can fall off the table at any point. And I don't think he's on that TB12 diet. I don't know what the Eli 10
not drinking
diet,
enough water.
I don't know what the Eli 10 diet is like, but he might not have that body to hold up past 38, 39 years old. And one hit can knock out your franchise, and then you're throwing in Kyle Aletta to be your starting quarterback. So it's something where I think that the Giants need to win now, and we mentioned the schedule. It's going to be a tough one. And if you look at the bye, week 9 bye, you have to be going in near 500 or 3-5. You have to be putting yourself in the scenario to go with 8 wins because you're going to have your easier opponents, San Francisco, Tampa Bay, Chicago, Indianapolis, like we mentioned. There's 4 wins there, but you have to at least put yourself in that position by the bye week to at least get those wins. So if I'm the New York Giants and the New York Giants fans, you got to be hoping for a hot start, gain some confidence, and maybe you falter against the good teams like the New Orleans, Carolina, Philadelphia, and Atlanta stretch. If you go 1-3 and that's your worst stretch of the season, maybe that's a moral victory. But in the end, this has to be a team that's looking at the playoffs, or maybe even going into that Dallas game in Week 17 to put themselves into the playoff.
And it's one of those hard things because I don't think that when we really look at it, because we have Peyton who came back from a devastating injury. Mm-hmm. We have Tom Brady who apparently the world believes he's playing until he's 45 because he wrote 45 on an Instagram post. But we have these guys who are playing later than what we typically would expect they should play. And Eli will be 37 for the vast majority of this season. So there's a chance that you have a little bit longer out of Eli than you might think. Now, every year, of course, people are going to complain about Eli Manning because Eli Manning is a great quarterback, but he has his flaws. He does make some poor decisions. He does throw a few too many interceptions more often than not. But Pat Shurmur's here. And Pat Shurmur is a quarterback savior in a lot of ways he brings those things down. He will make you more efficient. He will make you smarter in a lot of ways in those decisions that you make. I think this is a fantastic move coaching-wise, because this should actually give some longevity to Eli Manning and addressing the offensive line in multiple different ways in the free agency and in the draft is showing them that showing us that the Giants are very serious about keeping Eli Manning here for a long-ish period of time.
Well, it's going to be interesting because maybe we do see another Eli renaissance. I mean, we saw in 2013 he had one of his worst seasons, 18 touchdowns, 27 interceptions, a 57% completion percentage, under 4,000 yards, and had a quarterback rating of like 69% there. And then he went back up to 92, 93. Then he's come back on the decline the past 2 years, 86 and an 80 quarterback rating. Maybe he's able to turn that into and become more of a completion guru. I mean, he for his career, he's still under 60% as a quarterback. Mm-hmm. So it's going to be interesting to see if Pat Shurmur can kind of take that and turn Eli into more of an accurate passer, more of a guy that's going to be not taking too many risks down the field and being that gunslinger.
Yeah.
But that's a lot to ask for a guy that's been playing a certain way for the past 13 years now in the NFL, being a guy that has his place in New York, and the only way he didn't have his place was because Ben McAdoo wanted to make a power move and throw in Geno Smith for a quarter. So I think with Eli, the biggest thing is how is he going to adapt to this Pat Shurmur offense, and maybe he can have a renaissance. Maybe he can take that next step to being a guy that's over near 65% completion percentage, near 64% completion percentage. But again, we've seen Eli Manning enough where I think that with OBJ on the outside, I think he's probably going to be still that quarterback that takes deep shots. He's still going to be that guy that, again, needs to win ball games for his club. And this Giants team might be in close games a lot where Eli will have to throw the ball deep, and we'll see how his arm strength is at 37 years old. Yeah. We'll see how he's able to move around in the pocket, if he's still able to be fluid and still be able to shake off defenders. If Eli doesn't have that, then Eli doesn't really have that many skills because his the best thing about Eli is his arm strength and his ability to at least use his bigger body to at least escape from pass rushers, even though he does have a better offensive line this year, escape from pass rushers and be able to extend the play. So I think Eli, it's kind of a make or break year. If he's able to have a good year, then maybe we do take that as a moral victory and say, all right, we got a couple more years under Eli Manning. But if he comes out there, he looks bad, or if he gets injured, God forbid, I mean, this is going to look like a bad mistake passing up on a guy like Sam Darnold or even Josh Rosen.
It's possible because you look at the depth chart and it's Davis Webb or it's Kyle Luletta. And Webb, they weren't even confident enough to put him out there last year, which I think, and Giants fans got mad at me for saying that on Twitter, but I'm like, that tells you something if they're not willing to give the rookie a shot in what is a waste of a season anyways.
I mean, they gave Nathan Peterman a fucking shot, for God's sake. I mean,
and that's a joke.
And Geno Smith was your quarterback for a little bit. I mean, Geno Smith has been written off the books since his first game.
You know
as
what
a Jet.
Geno Smith is. You don't know what Davis Webb is. Let's find something out.
Well, and if we're looking at this, even let's look at Kyle Luletta. I mean, they took another quarterback in the 4th round, just around where they took Davis Webb at 3 last year. I mean, I get it. We don't know what we've gotten on it, but you have to at least try and see what you're going to get for him. And if they go to Kyle Luletta first, if he ends up being the second on the depth chart, then that just looks like a waste of a pick because now you just wasted a pick in the 3rd round in Davis Webb where you could have went out and gotten a guy for the offensive line. You could have gotten a guy for the linebacker position or even a pass rusher in the 3rd round last year. And it just looks like a mistake if Davis Webb never takes a step in a Giants uniform.
And that's dangerous. And with Eli Manning, I mean, they need to have a good season out of him. I mean, because he's never had a 64% completion season. You know, I mean, they need something good. He's had his great seasons. He's been close to 5,000 yards once or twice, but they need to either have this kind of renaissance with him or turn him into this just very safe, almost Alex Smith-like, let's be smart, let's be efficient, and let's just let the team be successful.
But one of the best things about Alex Smith and even Case Keenum, if we're looking at last year, is these guys have a lot of mobility. They have the ability to possibly pick up a first down with their feet. Eli Manning doesn't have that ability. I mean,
for sure.
And we look at Peyton. I mean, Peyton had his moments every now and then, but he's very similar athlete to Peyton Manning. These guys are old style quarterbacks. They're pocket passers. So I'm going to even wonder how Eli Manning, if he's going to hold back this Pat Shurmur offense, because he's not going to be able to step up and pick up 10 yards on the ground with his feet. So it's going to be really interesting, at least to say how Eli Manning adapts to this New York Giants offense and this Pat Shurmur offense, because again, like you said, he's a kind of enigma. He'll throw 25 interceptions. He'll lead the league in interceptions 3 times throughout his career, but he'll also, again, like you said, almost have 5,000 yards back in 2011. So he's a guy that might go down as one of the best quarterbacks of all time, but then people are going to look back and be like, really? Why? He won two Super Bowls, but that was because of his defense. And he's a guy that, again, he's Peyton's brother. He's not Eli Manning. He's Peyton's brother.
For sure.
So he's going to go down as a legend, or maybe at least a Hall of Famer, but he's going to be a guy that, again, maybe he's in that Phil Simms era where it's like, all right, he wasn't that great.
Yeah. And he definitely, when we're 20 years in the future, people are going to talk about Peyton. They're probably not going to talk about Eli that much. Unless we're talking about Tom Brady, which then Eli Manning will come back up as the Brady beater. But for all of our Giants fans, let us know what you guys think about their difficult schedule, about the additions they made in the draft, in free agency. Is this defense going to be good enough? Is Eli coming back, or are we just seeing a slow decline of what was a staple in the NFL? Let us know down below.